Hello, Riven mains and Yasuo mains alike. I'm the Nightwing, Way of Life Esports, coming at you guys with another League of Legends video. So, I have already recorded this video, and I already did it, but the sound quality was not good as I played it back before I started to edit the video. So, I was like, nope, I'm not going to put that up. I am a little tilted that happened, but obviously, the videos don't last that long. They're, around 10 to 12 minutes anyway, so that's okay. Obviously, I didn't feel like that video came out that good anyway, so I can obviously do it again and give you guys that better take on the specific series. Now, today, I will be going over the Worlds 2019 quarterfinal rounds that took place this past weekend. They were an interesting mix, obviously, to look at. So, in this video, I'll be talking about the IG versus Griffin series and the FPX versus Fnatic series. And in the next video, I'll be talking about SKT versus Splice and Dam1 versus G2. That way, it's just more content for you guys, more or less, because I know you guys like the more content. So let's delve into the video. So these two series were some of the most hyped up series coming into this week, as this World's quarterfinals looked to be the most even across the board, aside from the Splice versus SKT series, which was overall pretty interesting to say the least. Obviously, I'll go over that when I get to that video, but let's look at FPX versus Fnatic, because that's probably the one that probably sticks out the most to people as like, what the hell happened? So there's obvious things that probably happened with Fnatic. I know Fnatic has a very, very huge fan base, and it's really hard to see them lose when all the players are just basically distraught. Watching the press conference, it was just more like, God dang, what happened to them? Like, during scrims, something happened, or on stage, did they just have a mental boom? We don't know personally, but what I can say possibly that might have happened is there's a good chance they scrimmed against FPX and probably went like 0, maybe 10 against FPX in scrims. Then they're probably thinking like, if we don't cheese them, or obviously, what's the word that I would use? More or less so. We're either going to lose really bad or we're going to have to cheese them. So that's kind of where you get that Rengar top. There's no way you pick compositions that they did, obviously, if you didn't lose a ton of scrims to this team. Because obviously, when you have group stage, you get almost an entire week before the quarterfinals start, and you look at their compositions and go, what in the world were they drafting? But I don't think the drafts were overall a problem. Most people always question draft as it's like the end-all be-all of why a team lost. There are games, and a lot of games, where that is a applicable thing to overall attribute as to why the team would lose. But looking at the Fnatic versus FPX series, it was more or less so a stomp. And that's saying something, considering that most people thought the SKT versus Splice series would have been a stomp. Now, overall, this is how I kind of feel the series went. Remember how in Clutch's group with Fnatic, RNG, and SKT, how Clutch was just that much worse than every other team? Yes, that's more or less so how I felt about Fnatic versus FPX, is that no matter what Fnatic did, FPX were just the objective better team. Not only in objective control, but just objectively player versus player, they were just individually better. And that kind of sucks, because there's really not much you can do other than the fact that FPX on the day would have either had to choke, or Fnatic would have just had to play out of their minds again, just like when they went 3-0 to get out of the group. Now, that's something that we obviously can't look at from our angle, because it's behind the scenes whether or not they were losing a ton of scrims to FPX. Another issue with why they lost is clearly you do not give Doinby Rise. That is going to be a must ban, when IG has to face them this upcoming week. Also, looking at how Broxa played, he played individually pretty bad. He played just as badly as he did when when Fnatic faced RNG back in 2017. At the 2017 World Quarterfinals. And it's kind of interesting that when they face Chinese teams at Worlds, they've gotten knocked out twice, 2017 and 2019. In 2015 and 2018, they beat EDG. Now, it's weird though, they've only ever really beaten EDG in best of fives. The only Chinese team that they've really ever beaten in best of fives was them, unless I'm not remembering any other series that they did, because EDG 2015, and then they obviously won in 2018 against EDG. In 2017, when they came, they lost to Royal Never Give Up. And then now in this year, they lost to FunPlus Phoenix. So, seems to be kind of interesting. They only really can beat EDG at best of fives. But that's a topic for another day. There are obviously different squads and different EDG lineups from back then. So, also looking at how the series went, Bwipo played as well as he could, but Gimgoon took over as hard as he could have. After he saw how good Rengar top was, he was like, nah, man, I'm not going to let you beat me like this. You can't be doing me like that on stage with Rengar top. He was like, nah, man. So Gimgoon later on got an upper hand in the series. Reckless and Hylissang were playing pretty good, all things considered, but Fnatic's dives weren't really coordinated properly. They were literally dying while diving, but the Tahm Kench Varus is what FPX were priding themselves on. This happened a few years ago with Misfits versus SKT when Ignar pulled out the Leona. This series kind of replicated a little bit of that, where you have a solidified meta, and then right after that, people start to find counters to that, and Varus obviously is a counter to Xayah and Kai'Sa in some aspects, and China plays Tahm Kench more or less so as a disengage tool rather than an offensive tool. You kind of don't really see a lot of the Chinese supports play Tahm Kench very offensively, and you really don't. I've rarely ever see even Ming play Tahm Kench offensively. They more or less so use it for defensive strats, because obviously Tahm Kench has been nerfed so hard to the point where he's kind of just is a defensive support. So looking at how Doinby and the boys played, they played really well in the day. This is just a clear-cut difference in strong Asian teams versus how strong a Western team could have been in terms of performance. Now, Fnatic did win a game, but that game also was back and forth. Reckless died a lot on the Kai'Sa. He wasn't really that proficient on the AD carries, but it's obviously something that LWX started to show up big time, and FPX took the series, and really kind of sucks that Fnatic got knocked out. This was the actual only pick'em I got wrong, because I got every single other one right, so thanks Fnatic, you made me lose my pick'ems, but overall it's okay. Fnatic had a great year to end off their 2019 run. They didn't win any titles, but they're still one of the top contenders in EU. They've gained even more fans from their 3-0 run, and also Nemesis, their new mid laner, has looked incredible all tournament. So there's obviously a grass is greener side when the night is darker. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, sorry Fnatic, their year is done. You had a great year, all things considered. Lots of ups and downs. Reckless said in the press conference that they didn't have each other's backs, but hey, bad things happen on certain days. People play bad on certain days. It's okay. Things happen. We'll see if Fnatic next year. And Nemesis will be obviously a much stronger mid laner, since he's taken a lot of lessons from this world and having to see how all of these international mid laners play. And on an organization like Fnatic, there's just so much to go on with how everything has, really turned out for Fnatic all year long. So moving on to Griffin versus IG. Now coming into the series, Griffin and IG both had really, really good weeks. People had been talking about this series as it was going to be the next KT Rolster versus IG, base races all over, Jackie Love popping off, the junglers going at it. Well, this series didn't really show much of that to a certain extent. Now, on the surface level, it looks like that Griffin did their classic best of 5 choking, but I want to say this. In this specific best of 5 for Griffin, I felt as if they put out the most that they could. They didn't play at the top tier Group A second week that we saw, but they did play really well. You can't take that away from them. Tarzan played individually pretty well. Chovy played individually pretty well. He was going back and forth with Rookie, even with a Poppy mid pick. Viper had his games where he was looking like You know, Leyhands had that same issue as well. Sword and the Shy difference was, it's too much. Because people always talked about, well, IG doesn't look that good because Rookie and the Shy are slumping. They started to ramp up after the regional qualifier and after, you know, that break between Worlds and the regional qualifiers from all the major different regions. Then we started to see in the group stage them ramping up. Rookie had an absolute clinic. The Shy had an absolute clinic. Viper, even despite getting a pentakill, Griffin still cannot pull it off. And Korea loses their second seed in Griffin. And behind the scenes, Griffin has so much going on right now. Management issues. They have that big scandal going on. But there's definitely going to have to be some overall changes for Griffin moving into 2019. But with that being said, the overall series was pretty back and forth up until around Game 4. I think around Game 4 it was very clear that IG were just the better team on the day. Obviously, they started playing Ning. He looked a lot more consistent. Jackie Love had his wild turtle moments, as he kind of always does. But still, overall, the compositions that IG brought out were pretty good because most people call them a more or less a one-dimensional team. But you saw that in this series, they were willing to try out different stuff. So if they're going to be a one-dimensional team while having flexible picks, that makes them even scarier. And moving into the semifinals against FPX, that's going to be a big test. Now, I will obviously be previewing the semifinals, but the Griffin series with IG overall didn't really feel much fulfilling walking away from it. It more or less so felt like Griffin could have shown more. This was one of the series that could have went to 5 games, but overall IG gets it done in 4 games, and they're moving on to face FPX, their LPL brethren, in the next round. So yeah, what did you guys think about these 2 specific series? I will be previewing the next 2 series in the next couple hours or so. You guys will see it, obviously, if you're hitting that notification bell, when the video gets uploaded, so you'll be the first person to actually watch the video. So I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I'm a Nightwing, and Way of Life Esports is signing out. Peace. You guys have a great day.
Hi there, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff.
Yeah, thank you.